Let's talk about gender euphoria. Hello everyone, what is up and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Victoria Rose. I am a 25-year-old woman of transgender experience, and here on this channel I make gender affirming content. Gender euphoria is one of my favorite things to talk about because a lot of the times here on this channel I'm talking about some more difficult topics, whether it's surgery or transphobia or dysphoria, and gender euphoria is the exact opposite of gender dysphoria. So in order to best understand what gender euphoria is, we need to first understand gender dysphoria. Every trans person experiences dysphoria to some level, and that is defined as the misalignment of one's sex characteristics at birth with their gender identity. So for me, I am a transgender woman, and especially before I got top and bottom surgery, that gave me a lot of dysphoria, and I still experience gender dysphoria despite having had these affirmative procedures. By not only getting those procedures, but also just feeling more comfortable in my own skin, making my environment reflect who I am on the inside as well as my outside reflecting my inside. All of these things bring me gender euphoria. So it makes me feel closer to my authentic gender. It makes me feel more myself and more comfortable. Sometimes gender dysphoria can be very hard to get out of. It's a really tough spiraling mindset. And I think it's really important that we promote and encourage moments of gender euphoria. And that is why I created this workbook, the Gender Euphoria Workbook. This is my first ever workbook, and I really would like to make some more of these because as someone that transitioned years and years ago, this is before it was quite as mainstream, I didn't have many resources, and that's why I made this channel. There are still not many resources for people that are transgender, whether they're male to female or female to male. So this workbook right here works for male to female, female to male, non-binary people. If there's some way that you misalign with your birth sex, this workbook will help you identify and incorporate moments of gender euphoria. This workbook is available in my Etsy shop. It is $5. I tried to make it a, reasonable price. It is a wonderful way to support a creator like me. This video is, sort of the honor system. Like, I'm making this to go through it with you. If you really can't afford the workbook, that's totally fine. You can always pull out a piece of paper and follow along, but it really is a great way to support a small creator like myself. So I'm going to link my Etsy down below, but today we are going to go through this workbook and do it together. I'm so excited. I've been working really hard on this workbook, so I hope you enjoy. And before we dive into this video, I have a word from our wonderful sponsor over at Catch Beauty. Hey, I have something super exciting to share with you. As a transgender woman, I used to struggle with a lot of unwanted hair. I have spent so much time and money on painful and expensive procedures trying to get rid of all of my body hair, and I figured there must be a better way. That is when I discovered Catch Beauty. This right here has been a game changer for me. I actually can't believe the results that I've seen from this. I mean, look at the before and after pictures. Wow. The best part is I get to do it all from the comfort of my own home. No more awkward and expensive salon visits, no more painful treatments, just smooth skin on my terms. I just upgraded my IPL to the MX2 Pro, and this baby is strong. And guess what? Catch Beauty now has this fantastic hair removal cream and growth inhibitor spray. The cream is so gentle, leaving my skin soft and hair free, and the growth inhibitor spray, girl, obsessed. I've noticed a real difference in the amount of time it takes for my hair to grow back. I have never felt more confident or in control of my beauty routine. On top of just having fantastic products, Catch Beauty is a transgender dedicated brand, and that means so much to me as a transgender woman to see that representation out there. So if you're like me and you are tired of the endless cycle of hair removal, do yourself a favor and go to catchbeauty.com/discount/rose and use the code ROSE at checkout for money off your order. Thank you so much to Catch Beauty for sponsoring this portion of today's video, and without further ado, let's fill out the Gender Euphoria Workbook. Okay, so we have the PDF downloaded. I'm actually opening it right now in the GoodNotes app, but you can use really whatever. I like using my iPad just because I can have it like with me at all times. I've also become an iPad girly, but use whatever you like. I will have a screen recording right here of me filling it out. Please don't judge my handwriting. It's an Apple Pencil. I'm not used to writing on this. Okay, so welcome to the Gender Euphoria Workbook by me, Victoria Rose. This workbook is designed to help you embrace and create moments when you feel closest to your most authentic self. Our first page is on conceptualizing gender. Everybody's understanding of gender will differ, so let's get thinking about what gender means to you. Everyone's going to be different, so what does this mean personally to you? Whether it's your culture, whether it's where you live, whether it's your family, your friends, whatever has influenced your your interpretation. Write out 4 words that come to mind when thinking of masculine and feminine. So I'm going to go through masculine. The first thing that I think of when I think of masculinity is strength. So I'm going to write strong. I also tend to think of fatherhood. I think about, you know, fathers taking their sons fishing and things like that. So I'm going to write father. This is kind of silly, but I think of meat. So I'm gonna write, go ahead and write meat in this box here. Something else that I think about when I think of masculinity is like sharp edges. Like, you know, if I was to think of male and female in geometry, I would think of female being more circular and curved and masculine being more sharp angles. So I'm gonna go ahead and write angular. And so for femininity, the first thing that comes to my mind is soft. I think about people being soft, think about women that are soft. So I'm going to go ahead and write soft in here. I also think of curves, whether that is with the body or just architecture, shapes, geometry, any of that. Another thing that comes to mind when I think of femininity is flowers. I really love a floral perfume or just having flowers in a vase somewhere. It's just very calming to me. Going off the father thing, I think of maternal instinct when I think of women. I really can't help but think of nurturing and just really motherhood in general. Maybe that's because I'm getting a little bit of baby fever, I don't know, but yeah, that's what I think of. So next up, take a look around your living space. Using all 5 senses, list just 4 things that align with the description you gave for your identified gender. So this is whether you identify as masculine, as feminine, as a mixture of the both, whatever you feel would align with your description of what you identify as. So I'm in my bedroom. The first thing that I think of is these lights, these pretty, you know, colorful lights around me with flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and write my lighting. I also have a stack of perfumes over in the corner right now, which I just love. I love collecting perfumes. So I'm gonna write my perfumes. Kind of makes me feel like, I don't know, like a queen or like a little princess when I have all my perfumes out. I have a lot of soft textures around me. My blanket is very soft. The duvet under here is down. You know, my pillows are very soft. Everything's very soft and comforting in my room. And I really wanted to add that sort of feminine touch. It really relaxes me. It really relaxes Christopher. I just can't get enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and write my bedding. I don't know that everyone would align these things together, but I have a cat tree in the corner over here and a little strawberry for Rosie to sleep in. And she's my baby. Like, she's my child, my baby. So that's like motherhood to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just write Rosie in general because she, I would say, affirms my gender. Okay, so moving on to the next page. Now that we have the what we identify as being masculine and feminine and can kind of identify some things that are already things that could produce feelings of gender euphoria in us, let's make sense of it all. So our 5 senses make up our perception of the world, right? In order to best embrace and create moments of gender euphoria, it is necessary to identify the things we perceive to be masculine or feminine. Following this, we can meet our sensory needs. This is very important. We can meet our sensory needs by including what we enjoy and avoiding what we don't. So in this section, we're going to collect data on the 5 senses. So there's, of course, sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. And then we're going to analyze all of this and make sense of it together. Let's go right into sight. Let's think visually. What sights to you register as masculine and feminine? So for me, something that I would see might be lace. I love lace, and to me, that is very feminine. Another feminine sight would be colors, like the color pink. Something else to me that when I think of femininity that just comes to mind, again, flowers. It's okay to repeat it, and also it's okay for it to just be like more personal to you. It doesn't have to be the most prolific thing. Like, what comes to mind when you first think of this? I love to be able to see all of my perfumes and all of my makeup and my lotions and potions out. It just, to me, is very comforting. It's sort of like my own glamour altar, and that's very comforting to me. That is just divine femininity. So I'm gonna go ahead and say just glam, meaning like glamour altar, but whatever that means to you. So for masculinity, what is a masculine sight? To me, I don't know why, a man chopping wood, that's such a strange and specific thing, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Another masculine sight that I think of is facial hair. I think of a beard or a mustache, sometimes a like stubble, you know what I mean? I love that. I love that. Another sight to me that registers as masculine would be a suit. So I love suits, whether it is a male or a female, a man or a woman or whatever that's wearing a suit. To me, that registers as masculine. Sports memorabilia to me is very masculine. So I'll just say like sports, whether it's a baseball, other sports things, I don't know, like watching sports or anything else, to me that reads as masculine. So I'm gonna go ahead and write sports here. So moving on to sound, what are 4 feminine sounds and 4 masculine sounds to you? Think of music, think of nature, think of people. A feminine sound to me would be wind chimes. I really love the sound of wind chimes, and to me that registers as like girly. I don't really know if that makes any sense. I would say certain music to me is very feminine. That will go really for both sides. So I'm gonna write music on both sides. This really does go for masculine and feminine. For me, masculine music might be a little more harsh or a little more like metal-y or rock. And granted, I love metal and rock, and there's plenty of feminine metal and rock, you know, artists, but to me, that's what I think of. And I think of maybe some more like pussy music for girls, or even just like songs from my childhood, even like Kelly Clarkson or something, just like that to me is feminine. Another feminine sound to me would definitely be a giggle. The idea of like a girl giggling, a laugh, like, you know what I mean? A little like hee hee. I'm also going to say the sound of jewelry, because sort of like the clinking of bracelets, pulling out all of your keys in one hand, like to me that is very feminine. So jewelry is definitely on the list. The first thing that pops into my head when I think of a masculine sound is definitely like cheering on their sports team, like the yeah kind of sound to me. Cheering. So cheering for a sports team in particular. Something else that is masculine would probably be, I'm gonna say loud voices, just because that's sort of what I associate with men. I definitely know many men, including my own husband, with a very loud voice. Not necessarily a bad thing, but that's what I associate with men. I'm gonna also say the sound of cars, which hopefully you can't hear right now. I live on a very busy street, and it... Did you just hear that? Exhibit A. So the sound of cars is definitely a masculine sound to me. So now we are moving on to touch. What are some feminine things that you can feel? So tactile thinking, think textures, think temperatures, feelings like that. So the first thing for me is soft, easy for feminine, soft. Soft skin, soft hair, soft clothes, soft everything. Another tactile feminine thing to me is going to be silk, like silky. I think to me soft and silky are 2 different things, although they're both maybe like rectangle and square, you know what I mean? Most silky things are soft, but you can be soft by being silky. Like this bedding to me right here is soft. Silky being maybe the satin pillowcase that I have behind me, or a satin slip. I think that is very feminine. When I think of femininity, I think of like a warm, comforting feeling. So to me, being in a warm tub is very feminine. Being like a bubble bath or something that's, you're just being like cradled like a baby, like very maternal vibes, maybe like womb. I don't know what it is, but definitely a warm bath is high on the list of feminine feelings to me. I take my like self-grooming very seriously. So like you know, brushing my hair, straightening my hair, doing my makeup, like the brush of the makeup brush in my face, the hair brush in my hair, like that feeling to me is very feminine. So I'm gonna say primping. I was gonna write grooming, but that may be, you know. So masculine, right across from soft, just gonna go ahead and write rough. First thing I think of is like rugged, rough, whatever. When I think of men, I tend to think of a strong handshake. So I'm just gonna write strength. Girls, do not cancel me for this. You know what I'm saying. A masculine warm to me, maybe this is just a me thing, but there's a feminine warm and a masculine warm. A warm bath that is just enveloping you and comforting to me is very feminine. And a male warmth is almost like a radiator, where maybe that's just me because I live with my husband and we sleep in bed together and he's like a radiator. So to me, it's like he is my source of heat, and that's more of a physical touch thing more so than an emotional feeling. A woman's warmth to me, like the warm bath, is more like a feeling, like a what's the word? It's like a physiological reaction to a woman's energy. But to me, men, if you get to know them, if you're close enough to them, whether that is emotionally or physically, right, you feel their warmth. I think women are maybe a little more warm from the start, and men, you have to maybe get a little bit more deep. So I'm gonna say radiator. I hope that makes sense to you. A masculine texture to me is wool, because I would never be caught dead wearing wool for many reasons, but mainly because it is so rough. Not all the time, there's plenty of wool things that can be made very soft. Trust me, I majored in textiles, but generally wool is a very rough fabric, and whether it's a blanket or whatever else, I just don't like wool, and to me that is very masculine. It goes alongside the rough, but wool for sure. So we got touch. Let's move on to smell. Let's talk about scents. Let's talk about aromas, honey. Our sense of smell is closely linked with memory. What scents register to you as masculine and feminine? Have you ever just been outside and the air smells like the morning you were waiting for the bus in 3rd grade? You know what I mean? Like, all right, something smells like a Scholastic book fair, or something smells like being dropped off for summer camp. And you know what I mean? Like, there are certain scents. For me, one of those scents is my mother's body powder, which is Ginate. So body powder, in addition to down below here, we're also gonna write perfumes. Perfumes to me are very feminine. I love a floral perfume. I love, for lack of a better word, perfumey perfumes. Victoria's Secret Bare perfume is like one of my top favorites because it's very perfumey. If anyone knows the notes of that, leave them down below. When I think of a feminine smell, I also think about cooking, typically more baking, like a sweet smell. So I'm actually gonna write sweet. And also when I think of femininity, I think of clean linen. I think of clean sheets, clean clothing, just being well put together. So that goes with the perfume as well as like the body powder and the sweet smell. Having a clean environment, just clean linen, clean linen. So for masculine, I'm gonna say, I think of cologne. I think of a masculine cologne. My husband wears YSL Y for Men. I got it for him for Christmas, and it is just so good. Another smell to me that's very masculine is barbecue. To me, that is like the one time when you're gathering with a family that it's the men cooking instead of the women, which is wonderful and satisfying, thank goodness. Although I'm sure many of the women in the family, myself included, have been making food in preparation for it, but at least we get to enjoy the physical event. Just like sound, another masculine smell to me is cars, whether that's gasoline or like the clean car smell. That to me is very masculine. And I'm gonna go ahead and say leather. I love the smell of leather. That's in a lot of colognes, as well as like a leather and tobacco is very common. That's a very, very masculine scent to me. Okay, we are done with smell and we are on to the last sense, and that is taste. So getting a flavor for life, what flavors, what tastes register as masculine and feminine to you? For me, something that I think of when I think of feminine is gonna be sweet. Something else I think of when I think of femininity is fruit. I love fruity flavors. Maybe to me a flavor when I think of femininity would be bread, like a baked good. So I'm gonna write baked goods here. And personally, I love wine, and I know it's not a masculine or feminine drink, but in my life, most people that drink wine are women. So I personally associate it with women. But conversely, on the masculine side, I'm gonna write beer. I used to be a beer girl. Actually, no, I used to pretend to be a beer girl. I never liked beer. I'm a wine girl. I do like cider though. Okay, so moving on, I definitely think a savory flavor, whether that is meat or otherwise, that is a very masculine flavor to me. I think the taste of tobacco, sometimes the taste of a cigarette to me is like, sometimes it's Lana Del Rey vinyl and then sometimes it's like Nickelback. Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna write, yeah, I'll write tobacco. And lastly, for masculine, I'm gonna write whiskey. That to me, I'm not a whiskey girl. I've tried so hard. I am disappointed Carrie Underwood, but I'm not a whiskey girl. So now let's make sense of all of it. And we are moving on to analyzing. Now that you have identified what you personally deem to be masculine and feminine, what does this information mean to you? So we're gonna list one thing from each sense that we can realistically incorporate more of in our life. So we have sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. So in sight, I wrote lace, pink, flowers, and glam. Now, I personally love flowers, and I actually don't have any fresh flowers right now. So if I wanted to, if I really felt like it, I can run out to my grocery store or the florist down the road and I can get some flowers. So we're gonna add that to the list here. For feminine sounds, I wrote wind chimes, music, giggles, and jewelry, like clinking of jewelry. Now, I actually don't have any wind chimes, and I'm a big fan of that. I like having white noise playing in the background. I like the sound of nature, and I think maybe if I had some wind chimes outside of my window, outside of the kitchen window, that could be really fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and write the wind chimes because that is something I could realistically incorporate into my daily life. Moving on to touch, the 4 things that I wrote down for femininity were soft, silk, warm bath, and primping. Now, of course, we could physically take the warm bath, but I was talking a little more of an emotional feeling rather than a physical feeling. So for me, I really enjoy feeling bundled up. I like feeling soft. I like having blankets on me and, you know, having my soft socks on, my soft PJs. So I'm gonna use the soft one and I'm gonna say blankets. For feminine on smell, I wrote body powder, perfume, sweet, and clean linen. Now I'm pretty much always doing laundry. I do laundry maybe every other day, sometimes every day. So that's an easy one that's already incorporated. But for me, perfume is the top of the list. I love perfume. I have so many perfumes. And when I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling dysphoric, or if I'm even about to film like I did today, I like to spritz myself with perfume and it really puts me in that zone. So I'm gonna write perfume here. And for taste in femininity, I wrote sweet, fruit, baked goods, and wine. Now, I think actually what I could really incorporate a lot of that in, minus the wine, maybe including the wine after, would be an apple tart or some kind of baked good that's fruity and sweet and bakery. So I'm gonna write down an apple tart here because I've just been craving that. And I made one recently, like a copycat version of the Starbucks one, and it was so good. So maybe that's something I can incorporate. Now onto the wisdom well. I wanted to provide just a little word of wisdom here at the bottom. So reflect on moments in your life when you felt uncomfortable due to not having these gender affirming sensory needs met. We want to accept those times for what they were. You know, maybe we couldn't change them or maybe we felt uncomfortable changing them. We want to express gratitude that we are able to be in control of our own life and surroundings to whatever extent that means to you right now in this moment. So a lot of times for me, I think back to just being a child and having to paint my room blue. I wanted to have really anything else. I wanted like, you know, pink or purple or just anything but blue. But my parents insisted on blue. And I just remember being so sad about that. And mind you, I'm over it and plenty of little girls had blue rooms. It was baby blue. But that's one thing that I was really upset about. And you know, I accept it for what it was. I don't hold that against my parents. Like, it is what it is. And I'm able to design my space now and I'm so thankful for that. So we are going to take a trip down memory lane. So for all of these, I want you to take a little more time to think about them. But this section, internal especially, you want to take some time to really think about these things, maybe even journal outside of this form and use these as prompts. So we are just an amalgamation of our lived experiences. Gender euphoria can be promoted through external means, but it is ultimately an internal experience. So in this next section, we will begin to explore our memories of gender, both good and bad. This is going to be kind of deep, so we want to take a second to bring yourself inwards. We're going to take a few deep breaths together. So get comfortable, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. We want to allow our stomach to rise and fall with each breath. So let's do it together. Take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. All right, are you ready? We are going to go through authenticity in our inner child, and then are going to combine this and synthesize that information. So starting off with heartfelt reflections, I'm just kind of zoom through these. So when you fill this out, make sure you take more time to really go in depth and think about these experiences. But I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, go through this. So we can't change our past. We can only learn from it to shape our future. Take a walk down memory lane. Think of a time where you experienced gender euphoria, a time where you felt most authentically you. I have a very specific memory in mind. So where were you? I distinctly remember I was at my parents' house, so I'm just gonna write home. And what was I doing? I remember specifically, this was Thanksgiving, and all the men in the family were in the living room just chatting. We're not really a sports family, thank God, so they weren't watching sports, but they were just chatting, and the women were in the kitchen chatting and cooking. And that, to me, I sort of realized, I was like, I finally made it to the other side. So what was I doing? I was cooking, and I was also just chatting with other women. So chatting. Who, if anyone, was with you? My family, funny enough. My family really has been very accepting of me, and I'm very lucky for that. And how did the euphoria feel in your body? It was sort of that warm tub feeling that I was talking about. It was warm and fuzzy. It felt comforting. It felt correct, and it felt euphoric. I mean, it felt like a warm glow in my chest. I think that's what I'm gonna write. So it felt like a warm glow in my chest. Continuing along heartfelt reflections, we are now going to discuss our inner child. Now, I will say this is sort of only the beginning groundwork of inner child work. This is something that is, for most people, a lifelong experience of healing your inner child. So just keep that in mind, and perhaps even use these as journal prompts instead of just a short answer, which I will be giving here in these provided spaces. Each and every one of us has an inner child. That child you once were, playing in the sunshine or crying to their parent, still lives within you. The following questions will require deeper consideration than those in the external section of this workbook. Consider using these as journal prompts to get truly intimate with yourself. When you see this, remember that this is something to get you thinking about this long term. It's something to kind of get the ball rolling for deeper thought. Many transgender individuals feel robbed of a childhood. For some, early development can be filled with forced assimilation. It takes work to heal that child. So prompt number 1 is recognize and accept. How does your inner child feel in this moment? I have done quite a bit of inner child work already. I really feel like this last 2 years I've been really working on that. I'm actually wearing a Disney shirt right now. Hello. So for me, a couple things that, come to mind quickly. Again, maybe write a whole journal entry about this and communicate with your inner child. But right now, one thing that comes to mind is proud. I've always wanted to be a quote unquote YouTuber. I've always wanted to help other trans people and continue my transition. So I'm proud of how far I've come. That being said, my inner child feels ignored, I think. So I'm the youngest of 3, and I got all sorts of attention from my family, you know, like I wasn't like neglected or anything, but I felt like I had to speak really quickly in order to get anything out. I think anyone with a bunch of siblings will feel similarly. It's not malicious, it's just, you know, I had to talk over people. And this is a hard one to come to terms with, right? You know, I mean, no one wants to feel ignored. No one wants to acknowledge that their inner child is feeling this way, but that's important. And now, this might not be how you feel in this exact moment. Like, I don't feel like I'm being ignored by anyone in my life, but my inner child has that fear of abandonment. In fact, let me write that. Fear of abandonment. That is another thing that kind of follows me. So moving on, we're going to reflect and validate that. So what would you tell your inner child? If you saw your inner child experiencing these emotions or experiencing negative emotions, if I saw myself as a child and I was feeling ignored or afraid or like a loser or all those other things that I felt in the moment, what would I say to my inner child? I think the first thing that I would tell myself is everything is going to be okay. So everything's going to be okay. And the second thing I would tell my inner child is to be patient. I am someone where I want something yesterday. Like when I want something, I want to already have had it, you know? And so as a kid, I was very impatient. And of course, transition was no exception. I wanted to be the woman that I am when I was still a child. So be patient, it comes in time. And this, like every other question in this section, is going to require some more deep thought. Continuing on with this, we have break the cycle. So how does the pain of your past manifest in the present? Again, longer journal entry for sure. For me, the pain of my past, one thing that really comes to mind is that fear of abandonment. So I think insecurity with my relationships, with my image, with my ability, my intelligence. I feel like that's a huge thing that I just had no confidence as a child, and that's something I'm working on now. Something else I would say follows me to my present is catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is when you are experiencing something that might be bad, might, you know, suck, you know, but it's just exploded out of proportion, or maybe someone misspoke or said something without really thinking and you took it really, really personally. Now I am on my own mental health journey to discover, you know, maybe that's not just inner child, maybe that's something else, but catastrophizing and insecurities are two things that really follow me. And I think the last thing that really comes to mind would be shame. And when I say shame, I mean, when I ask for my needs to be accommodated, or when I want to get something and so I get it, or when like I spend money that doesn't necessarily need to be spent, but I want something and it's, even if it's reasonable, I will still feel shameful of it. And that's just, so I guess, something that followed me. Being a trans kid, I mean, everyone around you is telling you to act a certain way, and so you sort of assimilate. And shame is something that really works on kids. So that's how society trains you to be who they want you to be. And, you know, it's something that I'm letting go of. Next up, make amends. What is one thing you can do to make your inner child smile? Now, this is something I've done recently, and I'm actually like so touched by it, and I thought about making a video or something talking about it. But for me, being that I'm a trans woman, I was not allowed to play with dolls. I wasn't allowed to have dolls. I was a boy, you know, so I couldn't play with dolls. And I used to make dolls out of popsicle sticks and coffee filters as like the dress, and googly eyes and yarn as hair. And of course my mom found them when I was a kid, and that was just a whole experience. But recently my husband bought me my first Barbie, and that, like, I didn't really expect it to affect me so much, but it really, really did. I always wanted dolls, and I felt silly going out and buying a doll, because I was like, well, what am I gonna do? I'm a grown woman. I'm not a collector. I'm not gonna like keep it on the shelf. Like, what like is the point? The point is healing your inner child, babe. Whether that is watching a movie from your childhood, or doing that one thing you always wanted to do as a child, buy that one toy you always wanted. So for me, something that I can do to make amends with my inner child would be to buy myself a doll. And I understand, like, that's sort of materialistic and that's not the only way, but to me that's one thing that really stood out and that's made a big difference. We have another wisdom well. Healing your inner child is often a lifelong process, a journey that is both separate from and enmeshed with your transition. Remember to give yourself grace. When emotions arise, let yourself feel them. Call a loved one for the ups as well as the downs. Gender euphoria is a wonderful thing, but it does not come without first weathering storms. Everything has a balance. There's ups and there's downs. Sometimes you feel great. You know, happiness can't come without sadness, and euphoria, gender euphoria, can't come without dysphoria. Now that we have explored our experiences of gender and we have had a trip down memory lane, let's explore what exactly that means, and let's see how it affects our current experience of gender. Internal work is the foundation of any well-functioning member of society, cis or trans. Everyone kind of needs to work on themselves. Gender roles are heavily enforced, so trans folks may need to take extra time to unlearn certain qualities and behaviors, and that is okay. It's gonna take some time. It doesn't mean that you're masculine or you're feminine. So to me, gender euphoria feels like, and I'm going to say, a light in my chest. I feel most supported when my loved ones, for me, I feel most supported when my loved ones include me in gendered roles. So that could be cooking in the kitchen, or when they ask me to bring dessert for something, or when I'm the host of an event and I am told that, you know, I'm a great hostess. Things like that really, really make me feel supported. I can make new gender affirming memories by, and this could be anything. This could be, you could just say, holding a Friendsgiving, or it could be talking with my friend, or going shopping, or playing sports with my friend. For me, I think something that I've been really touching on, which I just touched on with purchasing a doll, is revisiting my old ones. You know, revisit the old moments that felt euphoric and relive them. Revisit moments that felt dysphoric and see how I could have changed things and change it now. I am most comfortable in scenarios when, personally for me, I am most comfortable in scenarios when I don't have to mask, when I don't feel that I have to behave a certain way or sound a certain way, act a certain way in order to be perceived as feminine or as normal from other people. So I feel most comfortable in scenarios when I don't have to mask. Okay, so we are nearing the end of this workbook and we are bringing all of it together. So we are cultivating gender euphoria. With all of the information that we've just gathered, we can come to a few conclusions about how we embrace gender euphoria. Take the 4 things that you're gonna write in this section and put it into action. And as you are integrating these practices into your life, take note of how it feels to involve it in your life. And as you integrate these practices in your daily life, take note of how it feels to take control of that. We're just gonna keep it nice and simple for this. This could be as specific or as general as you want. Now, 2 ways to affirm your gender using external physical means. For me, the top thing I think of is lighting a candle. I love lighting a candle. This can go for masculine or feminine or non-binary, whatever. Lighting a candle is a very feminine experience to me, and especially choosing the right scent is very, very feminine. So lighting a candle is definitely on the top of my list. Something else physical that I can do to affirm my gender to me is baking something simple. Not, you know, there are all sorts of things that are intricate and does not make me feel calm at all. But for me, baking something simple is something that's just so fulfilling, and it reminds me of the holidays. It reminds me of my mom and cooking with my mom. It is a very wholesome feeling, and if I can give my husband a bite of what I cooked, it just affirms me that much more. And 2 ways to affirm your gender using internal emotional means. So for me, I really, really enjoy calling up a friend and having a deep talk. So calling up one of my girlfriends, calling up my friend Jill, is one of the most affirming experiences, because it's just two girls gabbing. Like, we're not talking about me being trans, and if we are, it's like a non-issue. We're just chatting, and I just feel so like normal. Something for me that is really, really valuable for long-term gender euphoria that is on the more emotional side would be journaling. So journaling is sort of like this very workbook that you're filling out now, This Counts, something where you can write your feelings out and see it in front of you, whether it's positive or negative, whatever, you can see it and you can make sense of it so much better. And I have worked through a lot of the pains of my childhood of being raised in the wrong body through journaling and through therapy and through calling up a girlfriend and through lighting a candle and baking something simple. You know, all these things come together to create the perfect storm of gender euphoria. And now we have reached the end of the Gender Euphoria Workbook. Thank you all so much for filling it out with me. I hope you found this helpful. Transition is complicated. Let's create moments of euphoria where we can. As you continue along your journey of gender euphoria, remember that your identity is valid, and remember that each transition is unique. Embrace every aspect of yourself with love and acceptance. Remember, you are not alone. A supportive community stands beside you. Wishing you endless joy, self-acceptance, and fulfillment as you keep on with exploring and affirming your gender identity. May you find strength in your authenticity and beauty in your truth. With love, Victoria Rose. Thank you all so much for following along with my first ever workbook. If you did purchase this with a link down below, I really, really hope this helped you. If you were not able to purchase it, I hope following along helped you as well. If you haven't downloaded it yet and you are interested in downloading this workbook, please check out my Etsy in the description box down below. It is a wonderful way to support small trans creators like myself. If you guys like this, I would really enjoy to make multiple workbooks, whether it's more about gender euphoria, whether it's about feminizing your physical appearance, whether it's about deciding the kind of woman you want to be. This is something that I really enjoy. I built this workbook from scratch. I'm really proud of it. So let me know what you think. Be honest, you know, be honest. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up. It helps my channel out so much. And until I see you next week, good luck. I love you.